UK's largest Christmas attraction. 3.5 million people. I mean, who hasn't heard of Winter Wonderland?
The easiest title is The Fixer. I like putting out fires before they actually happen.
It's so overpriced. What's your take on that?
I'm going to get into trouble, but that famous form
696
came on the scene and that just changed the whole game. In effect, they banned garage and grime. How can you stop music? You can't. The DJ box having a poster there saying all Lethal B tracks are banned.
Share a little bit about having encountered the police across that time.
And I got a phone call from my brother to say there's been a shooting. So we're going through the crowd, filming, and heard a bang. And my first reaction there was...
Well, welcome, X. I feel so honoured to have you here.
Thank you for getting me on this podcast. It's the first one I'm ever doing.
Exciting.
So nervous a little bit.
Yeah, well, good. Nerves are good. And you are a great storyteller, I have to say. From every meeting we've had, I'm like, you know how to tell a great story. So
I've been behind the camera most of my life, so
yeah,
this is an opportunity to get in front of it. So
quick overview on what has the last 3 decades looked like for you in nightlife, events and promoting?
It starts off, you can almost say once upon a time. Grew up in a Gujarati family, so going out was definitely not allowed. No. Thankfully, my dad was a bit liberal and understood that, going college, university, you're going to be going out and so forth. It was actually a trip to Coventry University that planted the seed for nothingsorted.com in my head. We went out one night with my friend who was there, 3 of us, and went to a club which was Godiva's, brilliant, R&B music. It was absolutely brilliant. And then the next night, it was like, where do we go? And he said, oh, I don't know, I'm broke, I can't go anywhere. So he said, try this club. I can't even remember what it's called. Went there and it was ABBA, cheese. And I mean, and we paid to get in. I was like, there must be somewhere online that you can find out what's going on and where it's going on. And we're talking about 1999. So the internet had just started, right? There was nothing online, nothing at all. And I said, wouldn't it be great? This was an idea that I had. Wouldn't it be great if you could go online and find out what's going on in which club, what hotels there are around the side, taxis, because there's no Uber then, right? So to get there, even ATMs, like there was no card payments. So all of that stuff was an idea. And then a few years later, the idea sort of came to fruition. A year later, my cousin, who was a web developer, got together with a few other friends and we put this website on the net. And after that, you know what they say, the rest is history. And it is really history. And
you've worked in promoting grime and garage events. And now you're in a completely different space for most of your year, with working on what is the UK's largest Christmas attraction that attracts, I read today, 3.5 million people across 6 weeks.
It's pretty big, isn't it?
It's massive. Winter Wonderland. I mean, who hasn't heard of Winter Wonderland? I know we're going to dig into some of the grime and garage stuff of the early years later, but talk to me about Winter Wonderland. How did this all come about?
There's a quote that I found out later on in life. I didn't know this at the time, but I've always had a say yes and figure it out later attitude.
Love that.
So with anything that I've done, it's not really premeditated, planned. It's like, okay, the wind is blowing in this direction. Can we catch that? And it actually goes a bit further back. I played cricket, and it's one of my passions. I love it. My dad introduced me to it from a young age. And my community club, we were in a league and I played alongside a friend of mine, Ketan, who happened to be a wine merchant. He got somebody turned up at his workplace wanting Krombacher beer. And this person ordered a lot. Ketan didn't really pay too much attention in the beginning. The second year, he looked at the numbers and he's like, these numbers are skewed. Why are we selling so much beer? And he realized the person that he was supplying was actually taking the beer into Winter Wonderland. Ketan's like me as an entrepreneur. And he saw an opportunity. He said to the gentleman, what about having some branded glasses, plastic pint glasses? And he goes, yeah, good idea. Can you organize it? Ketan goes, yeah, sure. He phones me up. Now I'm in the marketing, design, print world. And he says, can you print some glasses for me? I go, yeah, sure. How many do you need? He goes, 10,000. I said, cool. He put the phone down. First thing I did was jump onto Google, found 4 or 5 different companies and got some prices. And it wasn't actually the cheapest person that I went with. It's the person that responded in the most positive way and followed it up. And then that first year, we supplied Winter Wonderland, Bavarian Village, some printed cups. That's how I got into it. Yeah, and I never even knew about Bavarian Village, Winter Wonderland before this. As far as I was concerned, you know, fun fairs were like in our local parks.
Yeah.
There's George Irwin's, you know, on the Kingsbury Green, a few rides, a few burger places, and that's it. I had no idea.
It's a beast.
I had no idea. So the following year, Gethan went to Kenya, and the delivery had to be made with an Arctic lorry. Now, he said to me, can I organise the delivery? Because he wasn't going to be around. Usually I delivered it into his warehouse in Wimbledon, and he would arrange it from there. So I've turned up at Winter Wonderland, Hyde Park, 6 o'clock in the morning, with this 40-ton Arctic lorry with cups in the back of it. And I was sort of trying to, like, I've never been there before, and I'm trying to guide the driver into, and I've guided him down the wrong part. And there's all these small huts and everyone's like shouting at me. So I'm already like a bit flustered as to what's going on. I had no idea what was going on. So then we finally got down the right road and we got to the Bavarian Village, and the driver drove over the decking. They were not happy at all. And the driver was a good old fashioned English trucker. Go back to your country. Yeah, like beep, beep, beep. So next morning, naturally, I was expecting a phone call. So I got a phone call, and there's Gethan again. He goes, Patrick, so this is the owner. He goes, he wants to meet you. I go, what is it about the decking? He goes, no, he wants to meet you. And that was the first time I'd sort of went into Winter Wonderland in normal daytime hours. Walked in there and met Patrick, and he wanted loads of stuff doing, printing, design, signage, and so forth. And he wanted it done yesterday. And it was, he had a double-decker restaurant which overlooked the ice rink. Beautiful, but it was just bland. He just brought it. So we got to work, got everything designed, got it printed, delivered it to him in 2 days. But there was an Alan Sugar moment here as well, because it's like, I'm at the top of Edgware Road in Edgware, on my way down in a van. I said, Patrick, do you need anything? Yeah, I need 3 TV screens. So I've got a client who does TVs. Grab the 3 TV screens. Do you need anything else? I need HDMI cables. Grab that. Do you need anything else? It was literally going down Edgware Road, stopping here, there, and grabbing bits and bobs. And eventually we got to Hyde Park at, I think it was about 5 o'clock. Beautiful sunny day. Phoned up Patrick. I go, Patrick, I'm here. How do we get in? There's people going into the event. So I pulled outside the Queen Mother's Gate. He goes, don't worry, I sent some people. 30 people come walking down, grabbing everything out of the truck, and they took it to Bavarian Village. I got paid. End of story, I thought. It was only the start.
Wow. And how many years into Winter Wonderland was this?
This was, so I met Patrick in 2011. So I'd already done a year. I'd already been supplying them for a year. The second meeting was a telling one. The second meeting, he actually said, what do you actually do? I can't see someone like you as a design and print, you know, graphic design. That's not you. And I explained to him, and this is where I said to him, I used to do events, and we talked about branding, marketing, merchandise, all of that sort of stuff. And his cups that we printed had a logo on it, which was borrowed from 123 Ref, sorry. It still had the marks, you know, the watermarks on it. And I said, how come you use this? He goes, well, I've got it here, but the file I sent you was with the marks. And then I realized. And I said, you've got this website, but the website doesn't actually link to anything. He goes, yeah, can you make a website? I go, yeah, sure. I go, have you got Facebook? So this is still early days of Facebook. None of this was in existence. So the first part was how to build a following on Facebook, which we did quite easily, just giving out loads of free drinks and free food, and then filming the events, which we were doing anyway back in the days when nothing sorted, and just building the brand online. The first year we kept the logo the same, and the second year I managed to contact the illustrator of the logo and made a custom version of us of the logo, which we then ended up trademarking. So it just changed the complete game in terms of the brand and what Bavarian Village actually stood for.
And so for anyone who's not been to Bavarian Beer Village, it is a militant operation now. You know, myself and some of the girls in the office came down in December and it was impressive. You know, you've got these machines that now do the food and do your orders for you, like amazing live band. It's packed to the rafters every night. I think we went on like a Tuesday night or something like that. And it was absolutely heaving. What is your role in that, and how involved are you in curating and now designing the whole thing?
We've got, for the size of the operation, we've got a pretty small team, multi-skilled as well. So over the years, it's grown organically. Last year was probably the biggest that we had in terms of operation. So we had the Bavarian Village, which we've got 3 live music areas. So there's 2 live bands throughout the day and an outside area. And we had Après-Ski Resort, which was another area which was on the other side of the park. Again, sort of 90s themed. It's been challenging to get to where we've got to. As you mentioned, the live music venues take a lot of resource. You've got kitchens, you've got bars, you've got hospitality areas. I'm involved from sort of the planning side of it to the build to the operations.
You're there on the day as well.
I'm there every day. Yeah, I think last year I started on the 22nd of October, and I was there every day, including apart from Christmas Day, but including the dark days. So we were closed a few days last year as well. And I think I left on the 13th or the 14th of January.
Wow.
So I've got an office there as well.
Wow. And what's your actual title? Have they given you a title now?
I think the easiest title is the fixer. Or I like to say firefighter. So I like putting out fires before they actually happen. But in terms of, it'd be event director, I think. There's not much that happens without
you,
without me knowing about it.
Yeah.
As I said, we've got a really strong team, and it's a small team, multi-skilled, but it is demanding.
Yeah. And what an inspiring story to hear, like from going in, dropping in cups at a friend's phone call from someone you played cricket with to now operating, which is the largest licensed venues in Westminster, aren't they?
Yeah, I'd say so. With the decline of the clubs in Westminster, it is the 2 largest venues, in probably second only to the Albert Hall, I think.
Yeah.
If I'm not sure actually what the numbers are there.
And uncomparable, really, because the sort of vibe and the drink spend and the way that people interact with the Bavarian villages would be completely different to the Albert Hall.
So yeah, we do a lot of corporate hospitality. So, we have companies that come in and have their VIP tables in our VIP area, or just take general tables on the floor. We have companies that take over the whole venue for their Christmas party for their families. So we do sort of have capacity to go from 10 people to 1,400, 1,500 people. We've had some memorable parties that clients have thrown there. And
super famous people as well. I was looking through your Instagram, the little highlights, and I was like, gosh, you've had some really famous people coming down.
So footballers love coming down, especially in the VIP. It's private. They get to let their hair down. Cricketers, I'd say Virat Kohli, Rohit Sharma. And in terms of artists, I mean, I don't think I've ever had a starstruck moment more than when Robbie Williams came and performed on our stage. And his manager said to me, do you have anyone that can introduce him? And I said, looked around, all our artists are German speaking, and if you give them a script, maybe they'll do it. I go, I can do it. You? Oh, yeah. He goes, what are you going to say? And I told him what I was going to say. All right, fine. So I got to introduce Robbie Williams
I love
onto
that.
the stage. This is on preview night. It was absolutely amazing. I mean, he's a really nice guy as well. And he likes cricket as well.
There you go. I love
He had
this.
Ryan Sidebottom, who's a former England player, cricket bowler, that was one of his guests. So I got to meet him backstage as well.
This is amazing.
We've done X Factor twice, the semi-finals in the main Bavarian Hall. So Simon Cowell's come with his contestants and filmed the show in the Bavarian Hall and then broadcast it on TV. We've had the one show on. They broadcast live from Bavarian Village as well. So yeah, you get to meet some pretty cool people.
Definitely do. And I can imagine this isn't an easy operation to run in terms of the amount of crowd control that you've got and people drinking and, it's festive season, isn't it? How do you deal with challenges that come up in the way of, some licensing challenges or problems with crowd control and then the police?
So we work the event itself has Westminster licensing involved, the Westminster Council, the Royal Parks, IMG. It's a complete team effort. So there are lots of documents that we have to complete, and a lot of this does boil down to crowd control within the event, not just Bavarian Village. So we feed into a bigger event. Anything that we do impacts the whole event. So in terms of things like licensing, we have license holders on each of our bars. There's a security requirement to have a certain amount of security in each of these venues. Any operations we do in terms of egress and ingress is closely monitored, and there are policies upon policies. I mean, we've got a really strong security team across the Bavarian Village and across the site. So they all work hand in hand to deliver this event. There's a lot of changes in over the past few years in terms of people drinking and how much they drink. So, this new generation that are coming through, they're not drinking as much. We have seen a rise in zero alcohol sales of beer, spirits. There's just people just drinking a lot of water as well. So it has changed a lot over the last 10 years. You do get, your situation sometimes where you get people who, let's say, enjoy themselves too much, but it's always, de-escalation and try and keep everyone calm. And you can do that by various things like music and lighting. So we do use that as a way to keep people sort of at a cool level and not just have them, playing Free From Desire every 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And Country Roads, which gets everyone really lively.
In the mood. So just talking a little bit about price points of Winter Wonderland, the colloquial kind of feedback will be like, it's so overpriced, right? If someone's going to talk ill of Winter Wonderland. What's your take on that?
I'm going to get into trouble, but you're in central London. You're in the middle of an iconic park, and the price of beer is still cheaper than you'd pay at any Mayfair, Park Lane bar. Forget club, at any bar. Food-wise, and again, it's, if you're having something fancy and you went to a fancy restaurant, you'd expect to pay fancy prices. You're having a bratwurst, they're reasonably priced. Chips, everything's reasonably priced for where it is. And I think people don't understand that it costs a lot of money to put the event on and to keep it running. So if you're, we talk about saying Albert Hall and Bavarian Village aren't comparable. We can't be sort of compared to your local fish and chip shop in your village. You're in central London. Anywhere you go is going to be expensive, and I don't think we're out of range of any of those. Again, it's just being smart about what you do. So if you're going to come out, would you come out and expect to have breakfast, dinner, lunch, a live event? No, you wouldn't. And again, if you're going to go and say, okay, I want, and there's family options as well. So we have, kids meals. There's discounts that you can get if you book online as well. The easiest thing to target is the pricing. And again, it's, that whole pimp my hot chocolate or pimp my drink. You're going to keep adding stuff to it, then of course it's going to But actually, can you get a beer for under £8 in central London at a temporary event? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And you're in Winter Wonderland, you're getting a beer for under £8. So there is that. I think it's just the easiest thing to say, because someone will go along to, I don't know, a churro stand and add icing sugar, and then add Nutella, and then add sprinkles, and add, I don't know, marshmallows, and add, and then say, oh, it cost me, I don't know, £12, and then moan. But you can get a portion of churros for £7. So I do think we get bashed unfairly as it's too expensive. And I don't feel that's fair.
And do you think over the years that's impacted ticket sales?
So before COVID, there was no ticketed entry. It was, you could just walk up. And that had its own problems. Yeah. So that had its own problems, because there were days where on a weekend where you would have no idea how many people were going to turn up. And there were times where, again, the disappointment. So if you turn up on a Saturday, the weather's lovely and the event's full and you can't get in, that's really disappointing, especially if you've come from somewhere far, even just being in London. So the ticketing has helped in terms of spreading the numbers throughout the week. And the busy days are busy, but not to the extent where where it was like in the past, where it was difficult to really gauge and, move around. So that has really helped. Again, with the ticketing, you can add stuff to your basket, so you don't actually pay for entry. So you just pre-book your rides or some food packages. So it's easy for people to say, oh, we're getting charged to come in, but you would pay for, I don't know, ice rink, the wheel, some food. So if you pre-book that, your entry's free anyway.
So you haven't seen a decline in ticket sales despite cost of living having gone up, and maybe certain things within Winter Wonderland having to go up because of supply chains?
Brexit, COVID did have an impact on everything that happened in the UK. Things have gone up in price. But we do work, very closely with the Raw Parks, with the event organisers, to ensure that the pricing is fair. And, we've had to change certain things. So where suppliers were mainly non-UK based in the past, we've had to look for and source people in the UK to get the same products. It's really difficult to say with regards to the cost of living crisis and how that's impacted numbers at Winter Wonderland. There are a lot of tourists in London as well. So it's difficult to gauge and put a finger on. And again, we're within Winter Wonderland, so we wouldn't necessarily see. What we do see is our crowd, that the people that want to come and have a good time, sing songs, and have those tables, have that Oktoberfest experience. We've seen that that's not declined now.
That's great. And so let's talk a little bit about the police and licensing, because you've spent 26 years through the events that you've been present at, promoting, people you've worked with, working with police and licensing. Share a little bit about the grime and garage scene, and maybe some examples of how you have encountered the police across that time.
Yeah, it's been a challenging relationship, especially with the grime and garage side of things. I actually posted a flyer up a few days ago from an event at Astoria in 2001, and that was Romeo's birthday bash from
Is Astoria Portsmouth?
London Astoria is Tottenham Court Road.
London Astoria.
Yeah, London Astoria. So we had our first birthday bash that was supposed to happen at the Hippodrome in Leicester Square. And it was all booked up. It was a student night, Luckany on the lineup. It was Shorty Blitz. There was a big lineup, huge. It was our first birthday. And I still remember it distinctly. So on that day, we had 2 crews filming. So I was at Equinox, because there's an Asian event there. And my cousin and my brother were at Astoria, because it was Romeo's birthday bash. We finished up at Equinox probably about 3 o'clock, flyering our birthday, and there was some trouble in Leicester Square, as there usually is. People came out of the club. They were fighting each other. I think, from memory, one of the big ticket sellers in East London, his son got beaten up really badly. And then I got a phone call from my brother to say, there's been a shooting at Astoria. And that's all he said. And I just said, just get out there as soon as you can. And then we met up with him afterwards. And then the aftermath of it hit us like a speeding bus. A train, sorry. Luminar Leisure at the time, who owned Hippodrome, told us that the police had told them to cancel the event on grounds of safety. And it was a SO19 team, which targets specifically gun crime. Me being me, I wanted that in writing from them to say, this is what the police have done. Because
how much notice had they been giving you?
So this was 3 days. That was it. I think from our event was supposed to be the 1st of November, and this would have been the 26th or 27th of October. So it was literally no notice. And it's Luminar Leisure, they're big. And we're talking, they had 200 clubs in the UK at the time. So I couldn't imagine that the police would actually, because that would mean that they'd have to stop all events. Or was it just profiling? Because ours was on a Wednesday night, so it was a student crowd. It wasn't targeting the sort of Saturday night garage, although it was a garage night. The event got cancelled. Eventually we found out that it wasn't the police that told them. They'd advised them, and they weren't willing to put that on record. So Luminar had to refund all the money that we had lost. And then in the end, we ended up putting on the event at Turnmills, which was Clerkenwell. So, and it was a completely different event, completely different. And from then on, there were things that kept coming up. So clubs were being overly cautious, and they'd ask for artists beforehand to say, who are you booking? And then that famous form
696
came on the scene, and that just changed the whole game, because names and addresses of the artists, profiling, absolutely, they wanted to know who was associated with gangs, who was associated, whatever was going on. Now that had a big impact on the scene, because in effect they banned garage and grime. So over that period there was very few events. Now we were fortunate because I'd sort of already seen that some of this stuff was happening, and we were doing events at student unions. So we were able to still put on events, grime, because that's what was kicking at the time.
Yeah.
2005.
This is back in 2005.
Yeah, that grime was kicking, and I didn't know at the time, but someone said to me, "Oh, Jamie's put you on his F64," and I was like, me being me, I went to listen to it, and he goes, "Yeah, bigging up man like Mux, who was still giving us," and I go, "Shubs," and I said, "Huh? Jamie, what are you talking about?" He goes, and I phoned him up and asked him, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "Yeah, because you're still giving us bookings when no one else was able to give us bookings, keeping our face out there." I go, "Oh." Right. And then it sort of came to me as the impact, the importance of still having those events, because if you go on and see the videos, it was just like a Sidewinder, just like a Sun City, just like a Licensed to Rave or Climax. They were full on garage events, grime events, crossover between the two. And it was clear that the following hadn't gone, even though it was apparent that the music they were trying to push it away and just ban it, basically.
And so grime and garage as a genre of music has been known to have its roots in underground UK culture. Do you think, like, in this time in 2005, with everything the police were trying to achieve from making it more safe, actually pushed it further underground and closer to its roots?
There were certain venues that helped garage be garage. So a bit more context to that. Places like Sanctuary in Milton Keynes, by this stage, 2005 is already gone. They knocked it down to make Milton Keynes football ground. Club Coliseum in Vauxhall, again, a real, underground garage event venue, which was closed down by this stage already. Then you've got places like Zenith's, which wasn't probably that underground, but I'd say still had an impact. Adrenaline Village as well. So a lot of these underground venues by this stage had already shut down. What was around the time was, how do we keep the music going, but in big venues? Because having a 2,000 capacity club just wasn't enough. You're going from Sanctuary, which is 5,000. I think Pure Silk did Wembley exhibition rooms, and that was 10,000 people for New Year's Eve. Pure Silk were doing garage at that time. I do remember someone doing the O2 as well, the Millennium Dome, for New Year's Eve the following year. So garage was big, grime was big. How can you stop music? You can't. You couldn't stop it. And don't forget, this was a time of POW as well, the club, that they forget trying to ban the music. They tried to ban this single artist. So, you know, I've got videos where it shows the DJ box having a poster there saying all Lethal B tracks are banned. You couldn't play. And again, you know, adding some context to that sound, when you hear the dun dun dun, and then people just, you know, the boos. Now, if you're in a club which is underground, the security aren't going to react to that at all. If you're in a club like a First Leisure or Lumina Leisure Club, and they just hear boos, the security like, what's going on? And then what happens next is everyone's sort of pushing each other. Whereas control pushing, don't get me wrong, there were times where the control pushing turned into a bit of a scuffle, but it looks like they're fighting, but they weren't.
So are you saying that the way that these events were perceived wasn't understanding what the cultural roots were?
It just didn't. You couldn't understand it. Now, if that was a heavy metal event, and you know how they do their mosh pit and they just run into each other, no one bats an eyelid. But if that same thing happened and Lethal B was on stage, or Wiley was on stage, or Skepta JME, they'd be like, oh my God, the crowd are fighting. Send security in. But it's the same thing, just different music and a different crowd.
And so the roots of the music, let's talk, because you know so many of the grime and garage artists, like the original people. What was it? What is it like? Where does the music like really originate from?
Well, for me, I started listening to garage in, I'd say, 98, 99. Before that, I was like Tupac, Biggie, the sort of hip hop that was, you know, our time, and trying to memorize the words, Informer and all of those, you know, Vanilla Ice and all is different times. I got into garage almost by accident. And when I stumbled upon this genre, it was like, I like it.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, it's bubbly, and it's like, the music's good. I remember Footsteps on the Dance Floor remind me thinking of you, Flowers and all those, you know, really like sort of
light.
They were light, yeah, they're very light. And I didn't actually realize that was just sort of the wetting of the mouth, so to speak. And then I remember 2001, Page Ago's first birthday at Sanctuary, like the first time we went to Sidewinder, and I stood there on stage and I was like, this is sick. And I just looking, and I just like, I was like, this is amazing. But all I could see is my face screwing up, and I was like, oh, when the tunes were going, it's like Wiley's on stage, Major Ace, R.I.P., Maxwell D, Plague, and you got Slimzy, Genius, and Target, and it's like they're doing a show. And you know, even now watching back the videos, it's like there's some moments that make the hair on the back of your neck stand up. And that was one of those moments where it's like, I could not believe the energy, the raw energy coming from the crowd, tune after tune.
There is like a real emotion,
without a doubt,
in this form of,
without
in
a
this
doubt.
genre, more so than others, I'd say.
I think people, I mean, you just get caught up in it and you lose yourself in the music. And then the year after, the Bonfire Bonanza, which was our second birthday at Sanctuary, and this is the first Roll Deep set that we've captured. It's Wiley, Dizzy, Jamaicaby, Flo Dan, Danny Reed, and Carnage. And that was, again, when I talk about, you could probably power the whole of the UK from the energy that was in that room. and they're on stage, and it's like a young Dizzy Rascal, fresh faced, you know, coming on stage, and it's just it. They didn't even finish the set. It's supposed to be an hour set, and they had to go off after 20 minutes. It was just too much. Wiley said it. It goes, it's too much. Next DJ, come on. And I stood there and I was just looking and I was seeing that. What are we on the verge of here? What is actually next for this music? Because Pay As You Go have split up. Wiley's heading up this crew, Roll Deep, and look at what they've done within a year. Sidewinder was garage. Grime was a set. Now you've taken that from a set to actually having this as the main performance at the biggest event, the biggest underground event in the UK. I knew things were going to change, and they did.
Yeah.
And they did.
And so the police haven't always shut things down. I remember you told me about a time at Ali Pali where something happened and they let the event continue.
Yeah, Ali Pali, Universal Sounds. It was 6 promoters that came together to put this event on.
What year was this?
This is 2001. 2001 was a good year. There's a lot happened in 2001. So I remember we went to Napa, and Napa was buzzing at this time. You know, all the promoters were out there. There were new super clubs being built. I remember getting off the plane, and from Heathrow to Brent Cross, every single bridge had this event advertised, Universal Sounds, Ali Pali. Because there were 6 promoters involved, and we were working with more or less everyone. There wasn't actually one promoter that I could have approached and said, "Oh, can we film this and can we get in?" And it was Mark Lambert that was involved in it. That I said, "Oh, we're going to come down." He goes, "Yeah, don't worry, I'll sort out the entry." So we got there. The place was rammed. There's nowhere to park. There was people sort of climbing up towards Ali Pali, and we got it through some side door. It's proper shady because the front of the event was packed, police, everything. We were on stage, so we went inside, went through the jungle drum and bass room, a bit of R&B in there, vibes, really good. Went into the main arena, and again, it was just like, whoa, the mass of people. I remember EZ on stage with Melody, DT. It's great. And then made our way round to the front of the stage. And what we used to do then, and again, we had no idea who we were filming. We'd have the camera on, a great big light on the top of the camera. Because if you filmed in those days, we're talking about, now you've got DSLRs and all that sort of modern day technology which enhances light. In those days, you had a camcorder. If there's no light on it, it's pitch black. So we're going through the crowd, filming, and heard a bang. And my first reaction there was like not to run, just to get away from what then happened to be a mass of people. So whatever had happened in there, it was like you're dropping a stone into a pool, a ripple. So at that point, I moved away from there thinking something's happened. Usually there's going to be a fight or something. We went back sort of to the safety of the stage, and I already knew that they had stewards there, didn't have security. Big difference. They had a few security, but the majority was stewards. So I felt that the mood had calmed down. So we went back out there again to go through, weave in and out through the crowd. And this time my cousin was filming, and I heard something again. And this time I just grabbed my cousin by the neck, pulled him back, and sort of went backstage and just didn't leave the stage then. Something major must have happened. We never really got, people had said things, someone got, a shot was fired, whether it's a firecracker as well, because they sound pretty much the same inside the club. So they've I looked around and the lights have gone on. And now you can see everyone's faces. So that clip that I put up on the internet from that event, it was the grime, what was going to be grime, So Solid, Heartless, Pay As You Go, in broad, with the lights on. Now I found out afterwards that they had made a decision to sort of let people be, because there was a minority of people that were causing the disturbances, and it was just I think they probably felt it's far safer to keep them
Easier.
there and let people egress of their own accord than try and clear out that whole venue in
Yeah.
one go. But I mean, that event has gone down in history. You know,
Mm.
it's probably the most talked about event, one-off event ever. You still, every so often I get a pop-up saying, "Oh, that guy's ripped your footage, man," and then I'll go onto someone's website and it'll be the footage up there, and the whole conversation goes in again. There's people, you know, really sort of established artists that say, "Yeah, we listen to that. I listen to that regularly. It reminds me of, you know, the good times." And it was, you know, when you look back on it and you think none of us really knew what we were doing at that time. I mean, So Solid was just about released. They had released 21 Seconds. Pay As You Go were still Pay As You Go, still very raw in terms of, it wasn't a stage show as it was just sort of like guys on stage emceeing. You've got people dancing there. You've got the groupies around them as well. It was just garage and grime in its rawest form.
And why do you think this genre of music, or these two genres of music, are stereotyped?
There are various schools of thought on this, and you know, some artists have said that when I've spoken to them, I said, "You guys are role models." They said, "We never asked to be." And a lot of them talk about experiences, what they're going through, what it was like for them growing up, what it's like for them where they are. Now, those experiences aren't normal to people outside of their areas. So I grew up in Northwest London, which is totally different to growing up in Bow or growing up in South London or growing up in West. And I didn't grow up on an estate. People grew up on estates. The artists that come through and they're talking about their life experiences, that resonates with the crowd in different ways. Now, is it something that the mainstream music want to hear about? What goes on on these estates? What these guys have to do to survive? I mean, you know, we can look back now, and when Biggie talked about this one goes out to all the people that called the police while I was just trying to make some money to feed my daughter selling drugs. And that was 30, 40 years ago. But, you know, this is life in London. This is, you know, the people that sit here and claim that everyone's privileged and they're not. You know, the people that don't have to worry about where the next meal comes from are in the top 2% of the world's population, not even the UK's population. So when they were talking about their experiences, and it resonated with people, and it created a genre from nothing, and the whole world, if you look at it collectively, what was going on? You're in clubs. You're allowed to smoke in clubs at that time. Remember, it's like now it's yeah. So if they were smoking a cigarette or smoking a spliff or whatever else, that then became a part and parcel of the music. So that then sort of, are they standing up there and they're talking about whatever they're talking about? Is that then giving the kids a sort of pathway to say, oh, this is what I've got to be. I've got to emulate this person. I grew up as a first generation Gujarati, and I couldn't really talk about experiences back home because I never lived there. Now, some of the MCs at that time from sort of the Caribbean would have had roots in the sort of dance hall, the reggae and that culture. And they would probably have been home and had experiences where they're at a event where the salute for a good tune is a gunshot. So if they're talking about that, because they're bringing their
real life
experiences and their culture into the music, which wasn't reggae, it wasn't dancehall, it was garage, which then turned into grime. They're talking about the experiences. Like, are you then saying to them, "Oh, don't talk about those because they're not PC or UK," which is what basically the people were trying to say to them. But when I was there, I mean, you know, if someone says shotgun, shot anyone, diss anyone, it's not me thinking to myself, oh, I need to go out and get a shotgun and start. No, it's not. They're just lyrics and they resonate with the MC at the time. They don't then have to be something that you then go out and, you know, some of the tunes where they went into so much detail to say, oh, someone says, oh, worship the devil, red is my best color. So what is that? Is he actually saying that this guy's going to tell you to do that? Is some of the stuff is just rhymes. It just flows, doesn't it?
And we've all got those songs, like when you think about what you used to sing as a child, and my mum would be like, church pastor's wife would be like, what are you singing, Sarah?
Yeah.
And you'd be like, it's a song.
It's a song.
I didn't go and act that.
No.
It was an expression.
No, and the other side of it was with grime, not so much with garage, was that clashing was a massive part of the culture. So how do you earn your stripes? How do you climb the rankings? You got clash the person above you. So there's so many clashes that are recorded on grime DVDs, but actually there's clashes that happened in events. Now some people took those clashes a bit too far and actually clashed and, you know, had fights on stage, which I didn't agree with at the time, and we would sort of try and stop them as quick as have security around and so forth. But where's that fine line? You know, you see that now where you've got people actually do clashes on Instagram and YouTube and for championships. Like, and then some of the stuff they come out with, I'm like, whoa, if someone said that to me, like, they'd get a slap. But it's an art. It's almost like a game. But you know, with any games, you can take them too seriously, right? And that then is another thing for people to say, oh, well, there was an event at such and such club and they clashed and there was a fight and then there was a fight outside and everything gets blamed on the music, the people that attended. And then it's like, okay, we're not going to have this music anymore. And then, you know, you look at certain places that used to be thriving for music, for garage and grime. Watford, as a typical example. I went there, I think 2-3 weeks ago, and the place is a ghost town. So Oceana, gone.
Well, there was the big Prism gone.
Yeah, that was Destiny's.
Yeah.
That was Destiny's, Oceana, then Prism. Area nightclub, which Area nightclub is probably, it probably should go down as a grime place of interest. You know, you have to have that blue circle, the blue plaque that goes in, because there's a lot of grime events that happen at Area nightclub. Then you've got Paparazzi, all of the little bars that were around there, they've all gone. That town centre, there was a Music for You festival where you had one ticket and you could go into every single club, and every single club had different genre of music, and there were funfair rides in the middle of the square. Like, how did it go from there to there?
Is there any truth that some of like the gang culture or, you know, division that was happening on the streets was taken into the clubs and expressed through music?
So in the early days, the crews were very sort of area based. So your So Solids predominantly made up of South London. Your Pay As You Go, I mean, that was a bit more of a mix up. Heartless, North London. So there was, I think, whether that was related to gangs or not, I don't know, because I wasn't in that world. I didn't even know about these things about gang. I mean, you hear about gangs, but didn't know that this was what was going on. It sort of comes to light later on in the sort of my musical journey. But it just seemed as if people were repping their ends. So if you're from East, you're repping East. You're from West, you're repping West. Because again, you know, we're taking for granted so many things. There was no platform for underground music other than your local radio station. And that local radio station, as Slimsy will tell you, he had to put a mast up on the top of a building and it would reach a mile, 2 miles radius, and that's it. So if you're in Bow and you then sort of head out of that radius, you can't listen to Rinse FM anymore. Same as if you're in South London. So the music was, you know, you would do guest slots. So if you're in East and you're doing work with a promoter in West, like for example Freeze, then they'll say, I'll come and do a guest set in West London. But that would be like, there'd be a bit of sort of like, oh, well, why are them not coming here to do a set here? Like, what, we're not good enough? No, it was just to get that music exposed to a different area. So in terms of the artists at the time, yes, they you know, there are references to gangs and so forth. How much they're involved, I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
There's nothing that I'd really ever wanted to get involved in.
And are you still involved now in this scene?
So I have recently been posting a lot more on Instagram, bringing up stories and sort of reminiscing. And now's the time. So over COVID, all of my stuff was on tapes, mini DV tapes. I had like over 1,000 of them.
And so just to frame, because I don't think we've quite dug into this, you were paid to, this was part of a job, or was this a hobby?
It started off as a hobby. The first event that we filmed it was sold out. The only way we could get in was to say, oh, we've got a camera and we're going to film it. And it became very apparent that the cameras were useless without a light. And then the actual buzz from people coming up to us saying, oh, where are you going to put it? Where are you going to put it? I was like, I was going to go on nothingsorted.com. And we were able to stream and upload short videos on our website. So we're talking 2000, before Facebook, before MySpace, before YouTube, all of that. Instagram wasn't even a thing. So we were able to put faces to people, which before anyone could say they're this person, that person, because unless you've seen them in a club, you wouldn't know. And in the early days, I said it was difficult. We're trying to get paid to do some of this stuff, and most of the time end up being, oh, we'll come then, we'll show you what we can do. And then what actually started off as sort of like, because we didn't even have now everything's streamed, so we're going to take it back a step and say, 2 steps, and say we were putting out VHS cassettes of the filming that we'd done. So we did a couple for Sun City, for License to Rave, for Climax. I think the big one was with Mark Lambert, where this is the event that we filmed, Page You Go, second birthday. And we put that together with a Valentine showcase and another event. It was a 3-hour VHS and it didn't sell. I spoke to Mark. I go, Mark, what are we going to do about this? He goes, yeah, it's a waste of time. So me being me, how can we crack this? Because if we stop filming these events, that means that we can't then get some money and we can't actually put faces to people's. So I said, and we're talking cassettes here. So we're talking video cassettes and audio cassettes, TDKs, right? So this is before the days of CDs. I said, how much does it cost to put a pack together, and how much is a DVD? Because the DVDs were just coming around then. He said they're about £1. And I asked him, how much are your tape packs? He goes, I sell them for £12. I go, what if you put a DVD in the tape pack and sold the whole thing for like 15 quid or 20 quid? He goes, yeah, give it a go. So that was the first DVD from an event, which happened to be Grime, which happened to be the Sidewinder Nothing Sorted People's Choice Awards. So that was the first Grime DVD that went out, and that was in 2002.
And how did you get it out? How did you circulate it?
So Sidewinder was an absolute monster when it came to distribution. The event would happen on a Saturday. By the following Friday, the CDs or tapes were mastered. And by that time, we would have produced a DVD edit that would be sent to the press house. And by Monday, all the packs would be pressed up, ready to be distributed UK-wide. Every single record shop in the UK had the pack within 10 days of the event. And they flew out the doors. Like, I tell you, that logistics was unbelievable. Sidewinder, unbelievable. They got the music to places that you wouldn't even know existed. And you see, if you ever pull up a Sidewinder flyer now, there'll be like 60, 70 record shops on the back of that flyer, which would show where you could pick up these packs from. And that's what spread the music. So from there, if you made it, other promoters were doing tape packs. That was a secondary source of income from an event.
Was that outside the clubs as well?
No, this is before that.
Oh, before that.
This is before that, yeah. So
okay.
Every single promoter, Garage Nation, Garage Fever, Sun City, Cosa Nostra, they were all doing tape packs. And they would, the thing is, again, it depended on how far the promoter is willing to go to get his money paid. So if you're a London promoter, getting your tape pack in Northampton might not be of any benefit to you because they might not have even heard of your event. People did used to travel down. But the good thing about Sidewinder was it was in Milton Keynes. And at that point, I thought that was Milton Keynes was like the center of the country because you could drive down, you're on the M1, not far from the M4. We had people, there was people coming from all over the UK to come to this event. And they came in then in masses. So that's how the music spread across the UK with this network that Mark had put together.
Wow. And so now you've got loads of videos on Instagram. And have you got
not
plans?
Not even loads.
Not even loads, like a handful.
This is just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
So I set up a YouTube channel because, again, when we were doing the stuff in the clubs, a lot of that went out onto DVDs.
Yeah.
So we didn't put much up on YouTube. And again, we're talking YouTube in the early days. Now it's unlimited, but you had 100 meg upload limit. So you had footage, you had to compress it down to get it under this magic number. And when I put up the Ali Pali footage and when I put up other bits and bobs of footage, it was just like, I didn't know.
No intention.
No intention. Just put it up there. And then I left it. And again, it hasn't got loads of views. I mean, 500,000, which when you look at the videos now, it seems like nothing. But it's the quality of those views and where the footage. I mean, Alexandra Palace have got the link to the video from that event on their website as a part of their history. I get requests every so often from people doing documentaries to say, can we license a certain amount of footage? And the stuff on Instagram the stuff on YouTube was just sort of like a vanity project. And I wouldn't really have given it much attention, but we did a DVD with Lethal B in 2005, which actually I put into HMV and Virgin nationwide. And that for me was huge because that was, again, the first DVD from the R music that was, it was everywhere, every single. And I still remember when we put it together, I worked with a guy called Monster. It was the backing sort of was the event that we put together in 2004 at Brunel University, which was POW, live PA or POW. It wasn't actually a live PA, it was POW. It wasn't all the MCs. Lethal B was just, running around doing his shows here, there, and he was on his way back from Oxford. So it was planned. So there's Lethal, Napa, D-Double, Fuming, Ozzy, and then D-Double came, and then Major Ace was there with his crew, Special Delivery, which is Bashi, who's now gone on to do films with as Ashley Thomas. The lineup was huge for Brunel University. I mean, you put that lineup on now, that's a concert lineup. And the vibes in there, I think there was 4 reloads to POW without POW even being played. So off the back of that, it's like, I've got to do something with this. So we put a whole documentary together where Lethal B's talking about how the tune came about. We've got Dexplicit on it. Went to everyone's estates, filmed their stories about how they got involved, and they gave the honest opinion. And there was a lyrical war report, which was at that time Lethal Fire Camp were at war with Roll Deep. So there was a bit of a report on how that was going. We got that into HMV and Virgin, and that was like, for me, it was just, the epitome of my achievements at that stage, walking in Leicester Square, walking into that store and seeing something that. So COVID time, I just put a little search into YouTube and someone ripped the whole DVD. The whole DVD was on there and I was so annoyed. So I went to YouTube. Now my account was inactive for 4 or 5 years. And I told YouTube, this is my video. You know what YouTube did? They took my whole channel down. I was fuming. I just did not know, like, how could, it's my footage and they take. So what then started was about 2 months of backwards and forwards with YouTube. They're a faceless organization. You can't pick up the phone to anyone. No. And I managed to prove that it was mine and they reinstated the whole channel. And that's when I said, right, I've had enough now. I'm going to claim what's mine, what I've shot, what people have ripped off. I get it. But there's certain people or organizations that are huge. And it's like I'm small in this whole thing in terms of my presence. They feel it's okay to take stuff off my pages, off my YouTube channel and not credit, not forget asking permission, forget, paying a license fee, not even crediting it to say they wouldn't do it to other people. If it was a big artist, they wouldn't do it to them. So when that happened, it was like, okay, how am I going to get this out there? How am I going to let people know what's there? How am I going to tell the real story, or the story from my eyes? Everyone's got their own story. There's a Instagram picture that you see where one guy's looking at a number on the floor and it's got 6, and the other guy's looking at it saying it's 9. They're both correct, but it's a different perspective. Now, my perspective is different because I was in the clubs and we weren't doing radio stuff. So what was going on in radio stations, I can tell you what was happening in the clubs. I can tell you what music was playing in the clubs. I can tell you about the fashion and so forth. Now, I was on Facebook at that time. I hadn't even touched Instagram. And Lethal messaged me and he goes, "Rob, you're wasting your time with Facebook. You need to get onto Instagram." And I said, "All right, cool." And I just started posting bits and bobs. And I got a bit of interaction. The biggest one at that time was probably a video that I posted up of Dizzy at Sidewinder with God's Gift. And Dizzy took the video off the page, or someone from his team took the video off the page and posted it on his page. And the same video that I posted got, I don't know, 500 views on my page. It got like 50,000 on his. And then I was like, he didn't tag me on it. How do I interact? And then I just said, "Oh, I filmed this." And he goes, "Yeah, you did, big up." And then I was replying back to the loads of comments because people were coming out with all sorts of stuff. And from there, gained, I don't know, 200-300 followers off the back of that one video. And everything happens for a reason. I went to Blakey's funeral, rest in peace, Blakey. And on the way back, and this was in, saw loads of garage people there, and, we're reminiscing. And then on the way back, my account got hacked, my Instagram account. And again, it was as devastating as the YouTube being taken away from me, which was reinstated, by the way. The hacker was demanding all sorts of money and so forth. And in the end, I just resigned to the fact that it didn't matter what money I gave him. I was not going to get my account back. I thought I'd lost all the content, but then I thought, forget it. You know what? I'm going to rip everything off my channel that was on the old channel, which this guy's taken over and started selling dogs and cats and whatever, and start it again. So I started posting everything, which then led me to, I posted a video of Alicia Dixon emceeing at Batchwood Hall, which she put on her stories, and I was like, whoa, like, we say things happen, and it happened, and it was, for me, again, as like, there's so many artists that I've covered over the years that I've worked with, so we put on our own events, we film other people's events, but not everyone shows you love. And the thing is, it costs you nothing to share, if I retweet something of yours, I'm not going to lose followers. And if you gain from it, great. So the stuff that now that I'm working on is sort of getting people being given their flowers. So a couple of days ago, posted about International Women's Day, celebrating some of the females that pioneered, that get forgotten about as well, because maybe they had a short stint in the industry, they didn't carry on, but they're still there, and they should be given their props. And it's all well and good giving people flowers when they're dead. It's too late. Recognizing and celebrating their achievements, because this scene wasn't built on a single individual. There were radio stations, there were clubs, there were promoters, there were artists, there were people that were just around, and it was a combined effort that made this. And what we achieved, if you think about what garage, grime, and then what happened afterwards with drill, and the other sort of drop-offs where you've got jungle, all these genres of music, which are UK music, which are part of UK culture, have defined a generation, and we're all a part of it.
100%. So what do you see for the future? What does the next decade hold?
I think there's a massive resurgence in music. So everyone's doing this, 20 years of this song, 25 years of this song, 30 years of this song. And we've gone from, and it's a continuous cycle. So there's still club events going on. The clubs are sort of folding by crazy numbers. I mean, it's sad. The new generation don't want to go out clubbing, but equally, there's some really, really exciting music spaces that are popping up as well. Seeing things like Garage Nation at the O2, and being able to see 10,000 people raving. I mean, it's not the same. We had a throwback video that we posted from Eros in 2005, and people are like, take me back, but we can't go back to those days. Those clubs, those super clubs, they're gone. The vibe is gone. Everyone's got, you go out now, everyone's got their phones out. Those times, yeah, people say there's not a phone in sight because the phones you had didn't have a camera.
Didn't want to get them out.
You didn't want to get, yeah. I still remember a time where there's pages that people used to hit page me, that sort of vibe. So you can't go back to that time because that time doesn't exist. So what's the next best thing is being able to do the music. And it's different now because in those days, there weren't loads of people doing PAs. So now you've got sort of the whole music is more PA based, like, you know, the artists that were back in the day that vocal these tracks, they've come onto the scene and they're sort of headlining these shows. It'd be good, again, you know, to get some of these artists back in the studio and making music for the next generation. You can carry on playing Little Bit of Luck for the next 100 years and it'll still smash up the clubs. There's so many tunes that are out there that will be timeless classics, but actually, when is it time now to make the next lot of timeless classics? And I think the support is there with the new artists because the collaborations that you see with the old school and the new school that are happening, but I don't know where that jump is from sort of how garage, grime, jungle, how does that fit into drill or, you know, pop or whatever. I don't even know what the kids listen to these days. But the music has definitely done a full circle and it's exciting times because we come from an era where pure garage as a compilation was a must every year. I think it got up to about 8 or 9 and then it was like 100 greatest garage tracks as pure garage. And it wasn't just them. Twice as Nice were doing compilations. Pure Silk were doing compilations, and this was with major record labels. So it'd be great to go back to those, you know, and not just have it as a feature on a now, what is it now, 96 or whatever else is. But I do think the music does need to come back around and actually making music that's timeless, not just spitting bars or singing songs in clubs.
Love that. And so if any of the listeners want to check out where your videos are, where should they head to?
Nothing Sorted is on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook. So just look for mux.nothingsorted on Instagram and Nothing Sorted on YouTube.
And they can find you at Winter Wonderland
Yeah,
for the whole season.
But not doing any garage there.
No
though.
garage
or grime,
there.
Or
no
grime,
garage there. Well, I've absolutely loved today. Thank you so much for coming
Thank
on.
you.
I feel like we could go way deeper in so many directions. Maybe there'll be a part 2 at some point.
Look forward to it.
Thank you.
Thank
Matt.
you.